You're listening to Our Space with Matt Vettese.
Today's guest is one that I discovered by scrolling through my For You feed, and immediately I felt like it was Bruce Springsteen and the Killers had a baby. We're joined by Alex, or, you know, as his band and stage name would be, Supergold. Thanks for coming on the show today, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. I appreciate the kind words.
I really appreciate it. And I was like, you know what? Why can't Gen Z have their own Bruce Springsteen?
Let's go. I love it.
Immediately, those are the vibes that you give off with the content and with the songs that you're doing. Is that intentional?
I wouldn't say that, like, I was like, all right, we're going Bruce Springsteen. That's the songs I'm making. And then I started trying to make those. I'm very grateful that people are likening me to him because I love Bruce Springsteen, but I just sit down and I'm like, I want to make something that I would listen to, that I would love. And that's what comes out. And so if it sounds like Springsteen, cool. If it's political, it's because what I believe in and it's what I want to, what I want to write about. Yeah, it's all coming from this is what I want to make. And that's just the product.
And it just sounds like you're also writing about things that you genuinely care about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why these songs have connected the most, is that I am writing about something that I really believe in. It's not just I'm trying to make a story or make a song that I think sounds cool. It has like real connection to me. It's deep. It's personal. To me, at least.
Is there anything political or personal about the name Supergold?
No, I wish I had a better story. People have asked me where I got the name. I have like a list of notes in my phone that I'll just, if I hear a phrase or something that, like, if I need lyrical inspiration, I'll turn to that. And so when I started this project, probably like 6 years ago, I think, actually 6 years ago, I was like, okay, I need a name. Right. I know I'm going to be a band. I know I didn't want to go by my name. So I'm going through the list and, like, I don't know where Supergold came from is written down. There's, all right, let's do that. What's the next thing I have to do? Okay, we have to write a song. It's like, it's just there.
How did you come up with your list of, words for inspiration? Because that's something new and interesting that I haven't heard anyone else bring up before.
It's just from either conversations or, you going through life and you just get those little nuggets of things that come to you. Good movies, books, it's a list of things that if I'm writing, I get stuck in something, I'll go through that list and I'm like, oh, that could actually relate to what I'm talking about. Or that's a cool word. So we can work that in.
That's really cool. And I guess that would help with writer's block.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, you hit a wall and you just start digging through the list.
It's a fancy tool. I think more musicians and more writers need to have something like that to kind of like it almost sounds like a vision board for musicians, an inspiration list of words to kind of spark those creative juices.
Yeah, it definitely helps to, like, get you out of, like, if you're stuck in like a particular mindset, I guess, if you're going down this road and the road isn't what it needs to be, it's coming to its end, you start digging through the list and, like, this actually could pull me in this interesting direction.
So where do you draw the most inspiration from personally?
Like lyrically?
Yeah.
Or I don't know. I've become really interested in I guess politics and just kind of how our world works in the last couple of years. I'm 26. I graduated college like 4 years ago. And, I like to think of myself as like a baby adult. Someone once told me that, like, when you're in your 20s, you have to feel like you have to have it all sorted out. But if you look at it from the perspective of, like, okay, I'm only like a 4-year-old adult, you know what I mean? So in the last couple of years, become really interested in, like, politics and stuff, and, especially just in the idea of capitalism and how that, I want to say, influences our world, because it kind of is our world. It just, why are the things the way they are? Why can't things be better? I think that's the kind of root of socialism. I just finished this book called Why You Should Be a Socialist, and it was very interesting because I feel like it's a great introduction to anybody who's curious about that world, I guess. I guess really the root of it is Why can't things be better? They could be better. Why aren't they? Let's work together to figure out how to do that. So yeah, I hope that kind of answered that question.
I think that's a great question that we should all be asking consistently is,
Hmm.
why just accept the status quo? Why can't things
Exactly.
be better? What
Hmm.
can we do to make things better? I think that that's how we move forward as a society.
Hmm.
I didn't realize that you were 26. I
Hmm.
got the Gen Z vibe in there, obviously, from your music
Yeah,
and from
I'm
your
right on the line,
content.
man.
Yeah, and
Gen Z millennial.
I'm a bit older than you. Like I'm smack
Hmm.
dab in the middle, like prime year millennial. I'm 32. I
Cool.
was born in 91. And like now that I'm kind of in my early 30s, it doesn't feel like it was that long ago that I was exactly where you are, where, you're
Hmm.
in your mid 20s and you feel like you need to have things figured out, but things are just in your mid 20s. They are hard. I like that you sort of describe that as like a baby adult because you are, and I feel like the cool thing about being in your 30s versus your 20s is you're like, okay, I'm finally there, where you take off all of that pressure of I need to do this by time I'm 30 in order to be
Hmm.
successful. Then you get to
Hmm.
30 and you're just like, well, I'm here. Like I've gotten
Yeah.
here. I'm alive, and I could just like do like whatever. Like, so what? I didn't hit those goals. I can still have new goals, and I can do those things. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. 30 just changed my mindset for some reason.
Hmm. Hmm.
But like it feels like it was yesterday that I was right there at 26, and I still
Hmm.
think that we need to, regardless of the age, push the envelope, constantly be seeking for better, not just for us, but for the next generation. I feel like when we
Yeah.
stop doing that, that's when we sort of stop with that progress. So I really like that you're helping push the goalposts and push the envelope, and I like that
Yeah.
mentality, and I like that your music calls for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to, yeah, I think you said it well.
My next question for you
Yeah.
is, with all of that being said, is how do you manage all of the politically inspired stuff and current events and watching the news, and how do you manage staying informed and burning out at the same time?
That's a good question, man. Uh, clearly from my content, I use like a lot of Fox News clips, unfortunately. There's work, but they help illustrate the points I'm trying to make. But, I'll have to watch a lot of Fox News to get the clips that I'm looking for to kind of illustrate the points that I want to talk about. So it absolutely can lead to some burnout, some brain rot. Um, how do I not get burnt out by, I guess, by sort of the treachery that is our world? Is
Yeah,
that,
because like
yeah.
I specifically remember, like I worked in radio for 13 years, and so I
Mhm.
was, hyper informed on, the top stories locally, the top stories internationally, nationally,
Mhm.
and some of that was fluff, some of it was heavier. I found that doing radio, and around the time that even like Trump was in power, would have been
Mhm.
2016. I would have been in my mid 20s, probably around your age at that time,
Mhm.
and seeing everything happening. And I couldn't get away from it, right? Because it's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, part of my job is to stay informed. I need to know what's going on so I can talk about things on the radio that are relevant to my listeners. And I felt that like doom scroll and the burnout from, what is Trump going to say? What bomb is going to
Yeah.
drop today?
Yeah.
And then to the pandemic of being so hyper focused on feeling like it's the end of the world. And I
Mhm.
felt, for me, I couldn't disconnect because of my job. And I'm just
Right.
wondering, with someone that's so hyper connected within your music, like, is there something that you do? Do you like tune out on weekends and just like, I'm not going to look at my phone
Yeah.
or the radio or the TV at all for
Yeah.
this week? Or, that's kind of what I'm
Yeah.
getting at.
I wish I could do that. Just turn it off and step away from it. But no, I think through making music and making art, it helps me to process these things and make better sense of them. It also helps me to feel like I'm contributing and doing something. I'm not just digesting and consuming. I'm hopefully taking these things and making things that other people can connect with. And while, it can be dreary to research these things, it helps me feel less alone when people connect to the songs. We're all feeling this way. And I think, like one of the pillars of socialism is to organize. And when other people connect to these songs, it feels like, oh, if we all are feeling the same way, why can't we organize and make things better? It gives me hope. I think making art is how we make sense of our world, and it definitely helps me when consuming these things.
I guess you could say that consuming the negative side of things also really helps with the inspiration of writing new material, correct?
Oh yeah. You know, you get inflamed about something. You're like, I'm going to put pen to paper. I'm going to make a fucking awesome song. You know, I was actually listening to a Springsteen interview, and I'm probably going to misquote it, but he said something to the effect of, desperate men make great art. And I think when, you know, you come across news that enrages you or makes you angry, makes you want to change something, makes you desperate, and makes you want to make something.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And I think that with what you're doing, you obviously are relating back to people. So you're kind of almost like presenting the counterpoint to the negativity.
I hope so. I hope I can be a little, give a little bit of hope. I hope it's not like this, everything sucks, and it still sucks, and it will always suck.
Yeah, you don't want to just contribute more towards the negativity.
Yeah, right. I hope that my music can be hopeful. I think even if it can feel, even if it talking about things that are negative can still feel negative, I hope that through all of us relating to them and feeling the same and feeling connected through the art, that it'll hopefully organize us. I think that's the end goal.
How often are you playing shows?
Oh, so when Supergold started, I was gigging constantly up and down Florida. I mean, I've played shows to, I think the biggest show I ever played was like 100 kids, and it was like the greatest day ever. And I've played shows to empty bars. But lately, I don't have any shows planned. Lots of people have asked me to tour, and I'll do a little plug. But if anyone wants to see me come play your city, I have a link in my Instagram bio where you can sign up to let me know where to come play. But that's the end goal. I would love to come tour. I don't have any plans right now, but if enough people want it, then I can make it happen.
Absolutely. That's great. I want you to plug away. You know, we want to see you do some more touring. I mostly asked that question because I wanted to know what type of reaction you've gotten on tour or playing shows, playing political, you know, songs. Have you had people walk up to you afterwards with positive or negative reactions to your music because it's so political?
I haven't toured any of these songs yet, so we'll see. I would hope the reaction would be good.
Have you noticed much of a reaction online to, you know, your content? Have you had anything that's obviously, you know, you talk about politics, it's going to draw, it's like immediately it's going to draw a reaction. It does it every single time.
Absolutely.
What's sort of like the biggest reaction that has stood out for you, both the best and worst?
I'll start with the best. I've had so many people DM me stories that, you know, of relating to these songs. I couldn't remember any details off the top of my head, but I can't even tell you how many DMs I've gotten of people relating to these songs. I read all of them. And I mean, it's made me feel undescribable. It's like truly what incredible feeling when people relate to the things that you make. So the DMs that people have sent me, the comments that people have left me, I read them all, and I'm so grateful for them. Some of the worst I'll talk about. I had one video that is super deep in like Trump right-wing Republican TikTok or Instagram, and it's just like relentless. And like, okay, cool. That means it's working. It's working. You know, my dad once told me the story of what's that radio host name? He's really famous. The guy with the curly hair. I can't remember his name.
Curly, who? Howard Stern?
Howard Stern. Yeah. Yeah. I actually don't know anything about him, but my dad told me the story about him, that when he was an up and coming radio host, that he said, one of the radio host managers came to his manager and was like, how many people are listening to him a day? And he said, well, the people that really like him, they listen an hour and a half. And he's like, that's great. What about the people that don't like him? They listen 3 hours. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. It's true. That's a real thing. It's in Howard Stern has a movie called Private Parts that he put out years ago. And as a former radio host, of course, have watched it. And that's one of the scenes in there. And that was how
it came from.
we knew, like, oh, that's how he basically became who he was. Like
Mhm.
people who hated him listened to him for longer. And that's just the reaction I think we have as humans, right? Like if
Yeah.
you're evoking an emotion and that negative emotion, I don't know what it does, but like it keeps people listening for longer.
Sure.
And that's a real stat with Howard Stern. I also feel like with the algorithm and with TikTok, I've had this discussion with on a past episode with the guys from Felicity, where you know they had one video go mega viral, and it went to all the people that would actually like their content, and then after a certain point, it reaches everybody that would like your content, and it has to, but like it did so well, so it has to go to more people, so it shows it to the people that hate your content, and then it goes down that rabbit hole, and then it goes mega viral, right? Because it's showing it to the people that love it first, and then they hate it, and that's how you get a video to hit 5, 10, 15 million views, right?
Yeah. I do want to clarify that, like, I still make these things from a place of like, this is what I believe in.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm not trying to like game the algorithm. Okay, if I make something super inflammatory, then I'll hit the numbers, man. It's still,
you're
still
doing it for the right
making things
reasons.
Yeah. It's just, you can't help but notice when these things start to go down these paths,
And they don't do that every single time. It's just the odd video will. Unless you're intentionally trying to, then it very well can. I've seen people that make a very good living off of pissing off the other side, and that's on both sides. There's people on both sides that do that. But obviously those are not your intentions. I will say this though, I'm so used to growing up listening to punk songs, and the punk songs that are against injustice and government, and most punk songs in that anti-government and anti-injustice route, the songs end up being a lot angrier. They end up being a lot louder and a lot faster, and yours aren't. And I think that's what stands out as so different to me, is you're almost like mixing that angry punk vibe into sort of this like dreamy pop rock. And I saw one comment say that your songs feel the subtle rage that they feel every day. And
that's awesome.
And I love that. So how would you describe the rage that comes out of your songs? Because there is some rage in there, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I like subtle rage. I like that. We're angry, but we're gonna put it in a way that we can still get down, I mean, I one of my favorite bands, Idols, and I've definitely tried and take a lot of inspiration. I believe the singer's name is Joe, from his lyricism and how on the nose he is. Subtle rage is a good way of putting it. I think you kind of answered the question for me, man.
I saw that comment, and that was the one that stuck out the most to me. It was like, this fills my subtle rage that I feel every day. And I was like, that explains it. I need to bring that up just in case you hadn't seen it. I know you do check your DMs. I will vouch for that. When I DM'd you to do this interview, you got back to me within like 3 seconds. So that was fantastic. And I love that you take the inspiration for Idols as well, because they're definitely one of my more recent favorite bands, but they've got that, once again, that angry, like punk sound to it. What inspires the dream pop rock sound that you are kind of encapsulating right now?
I love a lot of 80s music. One of my favorite artists is Billy Idol. And I mean, obviously everyone knows I love Bruce Springsteen. I'm just trying to rip him off without getting caught, And I've always loved 80s music. I've always loved like 80s music production. Stylings, and one of my favorite bands is the 1975, if anyone couldn't tell, and that's where it comes from. I just try and make things that I like. That's really where it comes from. I don't sit down and I'm like, okay, we're gonna take this element of this and this 80s music of this. I sit down, I'm like, what do I want to listen to? I just try and make a playlist for me. If I don't listen to my own, I forget who said it. It may have been Dylan, but I'm probably wrong, but there's somebody that said, I make music because no one was making the things that I wanted to listen to. And that's genuinely where it comes from.
And, I guess, did you ever feel like, anyone has written the type of stuff that you have? Like, what is the stuff that you like the most that you would say is closest to what you're writing?
Let's see. Probably Springsteen. You know.
Like if you had to tell a random stranger on the street your 30-second little elevator pitch into the music that, you know, you're making right now, random stranger walks up to you, you're like, you know, let's say they're like 45 years old, have never even heard of TikTok or like, you know, just don't want TikTok. And they're, you know, oh, you make music? What type of music do you make? What would you tell them?
Man, you put me on the spot here. That's all. I feel like that's always a tough question. But I try and make music that is socially progressive, that speaks to my values as a socialist. I try and talk about the things that are going on in our world today that affect all of us. I try and do it in a way that is catchy as I possibly can be.
I think the one thing that you do really well in your songs, and the reason why I kind of think about The Boss when I hear your stuff, is the fact that you're telling stories, right? Like it kind of gives me that New Jersey vibe of telling a story in a song of Bruce Springsteen or the Gaslight Anthem. Where do you come up with your stories for, you know, creating these people and these, I guess, characters within your music?
Yeah, I feel like if I was just to tell you like things that I care about, if I was for example, like with my song Jackie, if I was just to tell you that our most job, nobody in the country on a minimum wage salary can afford a 1-bedroom apartment. You might understand what I'm saying, but it doesn't connect to you in a way that you can, I guess, see yourself, unless obviously you're going through that, which, you know, the entire country is. But I feel like when you put things in a story, it becomes something where someone can really put themselves in that person's shoes. This is a person that they can visualize and see. I think that we can connect to our shared experiences. But if I tell you a statistic, it's numbers. It's not tangible, you know. But if I tell you about this person who's going through this, it becomes something that we can relate to.
It's a story and it feels real.
Yeah. Yeah, it puts it in reality. Yeah, absolutely.
Where'd you come up with Jackie? Where'd you come the name and the story?
The name, I was trying to pick a older sounding name. What's that song, Jack and Diane? John
Mellencamp?
Yeah. That's where Jackie came from. I just had that rolling around in my head. But yeah, that's where the name came from. And then I've actually gotten quite a few DMs from people named Jackie that were like, how did you know? And I was like, I'm sorry if you feel like I'm calling you out. There was one person named Jackie that's like, I literally have a bachelor's degree in economics. And I was like, I'm so sorry that I've called you out.
It's like, you know what? I was stalking you on LinkedIn earlier, and you were just a random Jackie. I found a random Jackie from like Portland with an economics degree, and I'm like, I'm gonna write a song about this. You kind of ever seen that guy on TikTok that spins the globe, and he's like, I'm gonna do a song over here with some. That's what you did. You just like scrolled on LinkedIn. That's what you need to start telling people. You know, that song actually is about you specifically.
That's my buddy Connor. Actually, just went to go see him play in New York or in DC the other day.
Oh, it's fantastic. Are you guys doing a song together?
I wish. That'd be awesome. Maybe I'll text him this interview and be like, hey, man.
Yeah, I got a crazy idea. You're going to spin the globe and land on Florida.
Yeah, right? So here's an exotic location.
Hey, I guess some parts of Florida can be exotic. What part of Florida are you from, by the way?
Just outside of Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I like that area. I visited quite often. I want to know from you, because you do talk about a lot of, you know, tropes and stereotypes from the millennial and Gen Z generation that really hit home if you're in that age range. What is your, I guess, the one trope or stereotype that bothers you the most?
That Gen Z and millennials aren't hardworking. That drives me up the wall. We are the most educated and the least paid generation in history. I mean, there's only so many times I can put in a song that every day is an unprecedented time. You know, the wars that we've lived through, the economic crashes that we've lived through. It's kind of that we're not hardworking is definitely the one that annoys me the most. But I think the irony is like, I think people look at these things and they're like, it's just bad luck. And it's like, no, this is the system doing exactly what it's designed to do. Capitalism is designed to crash every couple of years. These things happen in cycles. We all know this. We know it's coming. To say that we're not hardworking, capitalism is capitalisming. It's doing exactly what it's designed to do. When we have all of these businesses that are just predicated on the profit motive, right? That don't actually care about the people working and actually creating the value. And we're just trying to extract the most amount of money out of them. We're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing. That's why, I hope in my songs that when I call for systematic change, not just, charities or things like that, like actual systematic change. That's what I mean, because the system that we have right now is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing.
It's not broken. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing.
It's not broken.
I think that's
exactly.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's definitely, been my least favorite trope as well. Especially, growing up when I was, in my mid-20s as well, hearing that, knowing that I was working with I went to college, I got my post-secondary education. It feels like you're doing everything that you were told and everything right. And, you're working 3 jobs just to get by, and, you're doing all of that. And that's something that isn't uncommon to the millennial or Gen Z generation. There's people that, haven't had to do that, or exceptions to every single rule. But I think, it gets very tiring of hearing that you can't afford a home because of avocado toast.
Right. Right. Yeah, pretty much. It's when people say the solution is to quit small luxuries, that's not a solution. I'm not gonna do the math right now, but cutting out small luxuries is not how we build systematic change, right? It's someone buying a coffee every day is not going to make the difference between them getting a house or not. The median cost of a house in America is $400,000. It's unbelievable. The median cost for everywhere. Yeah, I don't think us cutting out Starbucks is really gonna make a difference in that regard.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. I'm from Toronto, and the average home here, $1 million.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
So it's definitely gotten out of hand, in terms of where we've come to. What do you think we can do? Like, what does systematic change look like to actually make things better for future generations?
One of the solutions that I like, and everything has its caveats, so I'm not going to say this is a cure-all in any capacity, but I do believe social housing is a great step forward. I think if we can do that and have I believe it's in Japan, but don't quote me. They have social housing right next to regular, not commercial, private housing. And there's rents there that would be the equivalent of like $500 compared right next to it, a house or a apartment that's worth maybe $1,500. But that apartment that's worth $1,500 could have been $25 had there not been something next to it to compete with. And I think social housing gets a really bad stereotype in this country. I think when we think of social housing, one of the things I hear is like, oh, you want our housing to feel like the DMV or the post office. And it's like, no, we have beautiful social housing all over the world. In Vienna, and I believe before World War II, don't quote me on my exact stats and figures, but in Vienna, they had beautiful social housing, beautiful apartments with these gorgeous buildings, sprawling green lawns, pools. I mean, a place like that would be a luxury condo here, that would be going for thousands of dollars in rent. We can do it. And we are the most rich country that the world has ever seen. When people say, how are we going to afford that? I don't want to hear it. We send billions of dollars for wars every single day. Like, we can afford it. We can do it.
Just move some of the billions.
Yeah. Yeah. We have, our military is more well funded, I believe, than the next 5 countries below us combined. We can afford it.
How do you create impactful change through music?
Um, I think that when I write songs calling out things that are happening in our world, and I get these DMs from people that say, I relate to this, and we all start to see, oh, we all are feeling the same way, and we actually organize. I think that's the biggest thing that we should be doing, is actually organizing. Um, that's how I think when our art doesn't reflect the time that we live in, we're in deep shit. We are going down a bad path.
And how often should we be doing that, updating music? Because sometimes there's music where it kind of lasts the test of time and, can inspire political changes and views that last a little bit longer. How often should we, I guess, be renewing the views within songs? Like, when does a song get stale or outdated when it has political attachment to it?
I think when it's no longer relevant, but I think the irony is so many of these politically charged songs that were written in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, or I should say in the 60s and the 70s, there's a reason they're still relevant. There's so many things that we haven't moved past, how when should we update them? When they're no longer relevant. But I think the irony is we haven't moved past them yet,
Yeah, some of those same issues that have been talking about, they're relevant because we haven't moved past those issues. You bring up a very good point there. I did want to say as well, you're taking pre-orders on your first ever vinyl pressing for The American Way right now. How many copies?
Available?
Yeah.
It's a pre-order. So
as many as you want?
There's
Sweet.
no limit.
and I noticed 10% of proceeds are going to the International Rescue Committee.
Yeah.
Why did you choose that particular charity?
I mean, they provide relief to places that are affected by war all over the world. So obviously a decent amount of those portions are going to Palestine, which is very important. I think the next time that I go to do a merch drop, we'll probably do it directly to Palestine one. But what was the question again? I'm sorry.
Oh, just why you chose that particular charity.
Oh yeah, it's just important to me. We'll pick a new one every so often. I think it's important that, here's the thing. It's charity, right? This is not systematic social change. This is not ending the war. It's just a way of helping, right? I think it's really important that my music and what I'm doing stand for more than just songs, right? It's great that people connect to them. It's great that, we can have these conversations. It's great that, hopefully that we connect enough people that we can organize and really do something. But right now, this is an easy, tangible way to give back immediately. And hopefully, to stand for something a little bit bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there anything else that you want to, I know we talked a lot about politics and about the process of writing your songs and your inspirations, but anything else that you'd want to promote going on right now? Do you have any shows? I know we kind of touched on that. Any other pre-orders, any songs that are going to be dropping, anything else that you want to promote on the show? What's going on in the world of Supergold for 2024?
I appreciate it. I've got merch for sale if anybody's interested in that, at supergoldfl.com. I try and put out a song every 2 weeks. That's always been my goal. I don't like sitting on songs. I love albums, don't get me wrong, but for me, I write a song, I'm happy about it. I want that thing out there. I want people to enjoy it now, especially with how topical these songs can be. If it came out in 6 months, it might not feel as relevant to people. So if on my Spotify, I'm putting out music all the dang time. And if you want to come see me play on tour, in my Instagram bio, there is a link. It says, "Where should I come perform?" You throw in your name, your email, your phone number, and when that time comes, and it will come, because that's always been my goal, is to go and play these songs live and connect with people in person. You'll be the first to know, and I won't miss your city. Because you will have told me.
Absolutely. I'm going to go right now and punch in Toronto so I can get you across the border. You better have your passport ready.
Right on, man. Absolutely.
One thing we do here on the show is, you're an independent artist. You are grinding and working so hard in order to grow as an artist and to get your music out there. What we love doing is asking our guests their favorite up and coming artists right now to sort of continue to grow the scene and spread some of that love. Do you have any other artists right now that are growing that you want to give a shout out to?
Well, she's not small by any means. I love Chaperone. I think she's off. Her music is, I'm in the car, pink pony, I love it. I think she's great. I love what she stands for. Chaperone. She's killing it.
All right. Shout
Not
out.
much else to say.
Well, Alex, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate you taking the time. And just a reminder, if you love the show, go and check out Alex at Supergold FL everywhere, Instagram, TikTok, .com. And please remember to give us a review as well, wherever you're listening to this podcast, or subscribe and like it. Leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube as well. I really appreciate that. That helps the show go a long way. And it helps our artists go a long way as well, because that's extra exposure for them. So by supporting the show, you're also supporting the scene. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Our Space with Matt Vettese.
Thank you for listening to Our Space with Matt Vettese. If you enjoyed yourself, please support the show by subscribing and leaving a review. Review.